All right, folks. Today we're stepping inside a room that most people never get to see, an internal affairs predetermination hearing. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, let me break it down for you. This is essentially where an officer gets the opportunity to tell their side of the story before the department makes a final decision on discipline. It's a critical part of due process, and honestly, it's one of the things that separates professional policing from arbitrary punishment. What makes this particular hearing interesting is the context surrounding it. We're looking at a situation out of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, a department that's been through some changes recently. Chief Chris Kirk, who's now leading that agency, was actually deputy chief during these proceedings back in 2022. And what I find compelling here is how the department used this as a learning opportunity rather than just a punitive exercise. Now, I'm not going to spoil what we're about to see, but I want you to pay close attention to how these hearings actually function. There's a methodology here, a structure designed to get to the truth while protecting everyone's rights. We're going to walk through the dynamics of what happens when officers face allegations, how they respond, and what the department looks for when evaluating these situations. This is about understanding the process. Let's get into it. If you love exploring body cam footage, just like me, then hit that subscribe button.
Okay. Today's date is January 19th, 2022. The time is approximately 2:29 p.m. 246 North Industrial Park Avenue in New Smyrna Beach. This is a predetermination hearing under IA 2021-006. Present is myself, Chief Coffin, Lieutenant Mark Severance, Officer Christopher Beatty, and Greg Cook. Greg, what is your official title with IUPA?
Business agent.
Business agent. I can't remember that right. Okay, so the purpose of this predetermination hearing is to give you, Officer Beatty, a chance to provide any information that I may not have in order to make a decision, or to give me any information that you feel is important. Have you been provided with all the documents for the IA?
I have.
Had a chance to review them?
I have.
You understand that this meeting is being recorded?
I do.
And do you have any issue with that?
No.
Okay. So if you've been provided with all documents, you've seen that the investigating officer has sustained the violation, Group 2, Section M, violating the rules, orders, policies issued and adopted by the City Commission, City Manager, Department Head. Specifically, PPD 15-2, Section 15-2, investigative detentions.
Right.
Okay, floor is yours.
Hindsight, I should have investigated much deeper than I did before detaining him. So I already told Lieutenant Severance that I understand that I'm in violation of that. When during the call, I was under the impression that the way he made it sound that he was actually on private property and trespassed, that he was asked to leave, and that his waitresses were scared. So after investigating that, I found out there was nothing, and unhandcuffed him and made him write and told me he was free to go. I thought that I did it in a professional manner, and obviously was unaware that he was who he was. Not that that matters, but looking back, hindsight, I could have investigated with Galt standing there further, or had the information that Galt had. Either way.
Okay. Anything more?
No, sir.
Yeah, so I'm fine looking at it.
This is kind of he was baiting
No question.
No question about, and he baited him, and he's admitted to making some mistakes there. Don't think it was intentional. Didn't go in there to intentionally. It wasn't a for lack of a better term, pissing off the police thing or anything like that. I watched the video. My opinion, I didn't think it was that bad. I think the guy had a minimal detention. He wasn't thrown to the ground. He wasn't tased. Was it did the violation occur? Yeah, he did procedurally, but he also didn't go into it looking to do that. It was a mistake, and I think all of us sitting here have been police officers. I think mistakes have been made in all of our careers, and especially with this, this guy was probably in my opinion, doing stuff that would elicit the very call that came into to dispatch.
You just heard it straight from Officer Beatty himself. He acknowledged the mistake. He owned it. And that right there, that's actually what you want to see in a professional law enforcement setting. The willingness to say, I should have investigated deeper before putting hands on this individual. Now here's where I need to add some context that the clip doesn't give you. What we're witnessing here is a textbook example of what's called a First Amendment audit, or what some call baiting. These are individuals who deliberately create scenarios designed to provoke a police response, often recording the entire encounter for social media content. And look, I'm not saying citizens don't have the right to film in public, they absolutely do. But there's a difference between exercising your rights and engineering a confrontation. What strikes me about this hearing is the union representative's assessment. He correctly identified that this was a baiting situation, but notice he didn't use that as an excuse to dismiss the procedural violation. That's the nuance that gets lost in public discourse. Both things can be true simultaneously. The officer made a procedural error, and he was deliberately provoked into making that error. From a training perspective, this is exactly why academies now dedicate significant time to First Amendment audit scenarios. Officers need to recognize when they're being baited and respond with enhanced patience, not less. The investigative detention standard requires reasonable suspicion before you put someone in handcuffs. Beatty admitted he didn't have that foundation solidified before making contact. That's the violation, regardless of how frustrating the subject's behavior might have been.
That he wanted in order to create the confusion. He's not new to this, and I think that should be given some consideration, and he walked blindly right into it, but both of the officers. I have seen this same group go out there and fly or act like they're flying whatever those drones and looking up, and the officers out there telling them there's no drone, they're just out there baiting the officer. So, I hope that you guys give that the due consideration, and to speak to his professionalism. I actually, once I found out about it, went onto the website, and he's followed around and he's cussed at and he's belittled, and I think that speaks to his professional and that he didn't, he made a mistake, and he's letting this guy voice his his constitutional freedom of speech, and he doesn't get derogatory, he doesn't do anything. He takes it, he gets in his car, he does his job. I think as a whole, if you look at it as a whole, I think, yes, it was a mistake. It was not an intentional mistake. They got you. And I think that we shouldn't, my personal opinion is all these officers out here, there's going to be a mistake, and to have hammer them with the discipline when in a situation like this for a group that is coming after the officers to elicit this very kind of reaction and kind of tricking them in that kind of reaction. I hope that gets looked at as in the totality of determining what kind of discipline to issue. I really do. And I've ran into this group. I've been a victim of this group before.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the predetermination hearing, Greg. I mean, I look at all the circumstances.
Right.
The factual stuff and the underlying issues that are there. So, I mean, all of that is absolutely looked at. Wouldn't help define for me what hammered is.
Well, no, I didn't mean that. That's just the way I talk. I don't mean hammered is. I think I would hope that, and this is just my opinion. This isn't Chris.
Yeah, this is an open meeting.
That my opinion is this is a good department issue training. Hey, look, these guys came here. This is what they do. You have to make sure that you understand where the line is, because they're going to go right up to it and they're going to force you to get it. And I think it's a good training opportunity.
And this is the part that really caught my attention. Deputy Chief Kirk, and I should mention he's now the permanent chief of the new Smyrna Beach Police Department as of April 2025, he frames this as a training opportunity rather than purely a disciplinary matter. That distinction matters enormously in how departments evolve. What you're seeing in this hearing is something the public rarely witnesses. Leadership acknowledging that these auditor groups are sophisticated. They're not amateurs stumbling into confrontations. These are individuals who study case law, who understand exactly where constitutional boundaries lie, and who position themselves precisely at those edges. The reference to the fake drone scenario? That's a perfect example of the tactical creativity these groups employ. They create visual confusion, manufacture ambiguity, and wait for an officer to take one step past the line. Here's what I want you to notice about Officer Beatty's conduct outside the specific detention issue. He's being followed, cussed at, belittled on camera, and he maintains composure throughout. That's emotional regulation under sustained psychological pressure, and that's genuinely difficult. Most people have never experienced being berated while trying to remain professional and knowing you're being recorded for an audience hoping you'll snap. The union representative makes a compelling point about proportionality and discipline. When an officer is specifically targeted by individuals whose entire goal is to manufacture misconduct complaints, how should that context factor into departmental response? It's a legitimate question that use of force review boards grapple with constantly. The mistake still happened, the training gap still exists, but intent and circumstance absolutely belong in the calculus.
To give to the whole department and make it a learning experience. That's how I see it.
That's already been resolved. We immediately addressed the training issue, as we do with every incident that we have, whether it involves discipline or it doesn't. If we see that there's some deficiency somewhere, both either on the officer's part or as an agency part, we stepped right in right away and provided training for all the officers on this particular issue. I will tell you that less than a half hour before this, he came and tried to bait me in the commission meeting.
Right.
And I didn't fall into the trap. I think that sometimes, I'll choose the right words here. I don't know if officiousness or whatever is an issue with officers of, I think that sometimes officers should just take a second and just take a hot minute or a deep breath and say, what is going on here? And when someone challenges us, not take it personally.
Yes.
They're not challenging me or you or whatever. They're challenging the uniform and the badge. It's like, we just happen to be wearing it, so we shouldn't take personal offense to it.
Right.
I can say I don't ever take it personal. And watching the video, my voice is never raised. It never sounds like I'm backed into a corner. To me, it's not personal. I don't wear this badge. I wear it with honor, but I don't wear it like I'm the police, like some people. I'm going to stay where I'm going to stay, regardless of what you think.
Okay, so then why the conversation about whether or not someone is entitled to an attorney and then the response of get an attorney in court, not out here?
Because we don't ever call an attorney to the scene.
And do you think that's the appropriate response, or would it be this is, either, yes, it is a custodial interrogation or it's not a custodial interrogation, and that determines what an attorney is, as opposed to, you don't get one out here. I'm just asking a question.
I mean, it's not, I've never used that word before. I've been asked that several times, and I just tell them that we don't do attorneys on the side of the road. That's what the court system's for.
Okay.
That's not, you could watch the video, that was not said like with anger or malice. It was just, you don't get one of those out here. You get it in court, but out here we're trying to figure out, we're doing an investigation to figure out what laws were broken and what wasn't, and whether you need to go to jail or not.
Okay. Anything else from either one of you? Mark?
No, sir.
Okay. The time now is approximately 2:38, and that'll conclude the predetermination hearing.
So there it is. The hearing wraps at 2:38, and what we've just witnessed is actually how accountability is supposed to work when it's functioning correctly. Look, I'm not a lawyer, so I won't speculate on the legal ramifications here, but from a training and procedural standpoint, what stands out is the speed of the department's response. They didn't wait for the hearing to conclude before addressing the training gap. They identified the deficiency and rolled out department-wide instruction immediately. That's the institutional reflex you want to see. Deputy Chief Kirk's point about not taking challenges personally, that's wisdom earned through experience. When he says they're challenging the uniform and the badge, not you, that's a mindset shift that separates veteran officers from those still learning. Officer Beatty's response about never raising his voice, never sounding cornered, that's self-awareness about emotional regulation that matters in these encounters. Now here's the broader takeaway. The NSBPD under Chief Kirk's current leadership has clearly prioritized adaptive training. The new K-9 units, the community-focused ordinances, the education-first approach we've seen implemented since he took over permanently, these all reflect a department that treats incidents like this as data points for improvement rather than embarrassments to bury. What makes this hearing valuable for all of us watching is the transparency itself. Most departments handle this behind closed doors, seeing the actual conversation, the acknowledgement of what went wrong, and the commitment to fix it. That's the standard every agency should aspire to. Not perfection, but honest, rapid adaptation when mistakes happen.